August 22nd, 2024 meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District. Would the clerk please
Recording in progress.
Selena, if you could call the roll, please.
Okay, thank you. Director Kino?
Here.
Director Daniels? Director Desmond? Director Frost? Here. Director Guerra?
Here.
Director Hume? Director Kennedy? Director Maple?
Here.
Director Vandenberg?
Here.
Director Robles? No worries. Director Cerna? Director Terry? Director Thau? Here. Director Vang? We do not have quorum, but we can go ahead and continue to the next item.
All right. Well, Director Desmond, would you please lead us in the pledge? Okay, any board clerk announcements?
Yes. Members of the public are encouraged to observe the meeting in real time at metro14live.saccounty.gov, participate in person via Zoom video or teleconference line, and by submitting written comments to boardclerk@airquality.org. Comments will be delivered to the Board of Directors. Public comments regarding matters under the jurisdiction of the Board of Directors will be acknowledged by the chairperson, distributed to the Board of Directors, and included in the record. This meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on Comcast and AT&T UVerse cable systems. This meeting is being closed captioned and will be live streamed at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting will be repeated on Saturday, August 24th, 2024 at 2 p.m. on Channel 14.
Okay, great. Thank you. That will take us down to our discussion calendar. Would you call the first item, please?
Sure. Before we get to the discussion calendar, I have Kathy Pittard, who's going to do an off-agenda item to do a quick introduction to our future hearing board member.
Okay.
We had hoped to do this after you approved the consent calendar and actually appointed him to the board, but we had asked Dr. Kelter to be here to say a few words to you. You know how hard we worked to get a good medical member on the board, and he's highly qualified. He's done a lot of public service. We're very excited to have him with us. And with that, Dr. Kelter, if you want to say a few words. He did warn me that he's never said just a few words. So.
Sorry.
And just to clarify for the board, he's a new member of our hearing board.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here and happy to join the hearing board. I have a 30-year career in public health, of which half was spent in environmental health, the other half in injury and violence prevention. Started actually with the state of Arizona in 1976 and have worked both there and at the California then Department of Health Services, now Department of Public Health, with a little time in between at the Center for Environmental Health at the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta. I'm looking forward to some time on the hearing board and happy to answer any questions. If not, thank you very much for this appointment. It's nice to be back in the public domain after 16 years of retirement. Thank you.
Well, welcome, Dr. Kelter. Thank you very much. I don't anticipate there will be a problem with your appointment. We just have to have enough people to get that done. So thank you. Next item, please.
The next item, under the discussion calendar, item number 6, Community Air Protection, South Sacramento Florin Community Program Update. Give me 1 second and I'll pull up the presentation.
Today, I will be providing an update on the Community Air Protection Program. My name is Leah Colin. I'm an air quality specialist working in the Planning and Data Analysis section of the Monitoring, Planning, and Rules Division. Next slide. So today we will be sharing results from our community air monitoring in South Sacramento, Florida. We will be sharing these results with the South Sacramento Florida Community Steering Committee in the upcoming months, and we are sharing these results with you first. The South Sacramento Florida community was recently selected to transition to a community emissions reduction program. So these air monitoring results will provide baseline air quality conditions in the community for the development of that program over the next 2 years. Next slide. The portable air monitoring laboratory was deployed in South Sacramento, Florida at Fern Bacon Middle School in April of 2023 and has been there since. As we have over a year of monitoring, the original monitoring commitments in the community air monitoring plan have been met. The steering committee will be reviewing results from the laboratory and then deciding upon a future location for it. Next slide. So first, I will be sharing some results from Phase 2 of our community air monitoring plan. Phase 2 occurred from August of 2020 through December of 2021, and it was at 6 different locations across South Sacramento, Florida. And Phase 2 was primarily intended to identify the placement of the portable air monitoring laboratory. But Phase 2 measured a variety of pollutants, so we also were able to look at levels of pollutants across South Sacramento, Florida, and then also compare those to what we see at our district monitoring sites. Next slide. So shown here on this slide are black carbon results for Phase 2 monitoring in South Sacramento, Florida, and then also what we measure at our district monitoring sites over the same time period. In South Sacramento, Florida, we found the black carbon levels to be highest at a site in the northwest corner of the original community boundaries. This site is on an arterial road, also serves as a truck route. It's near distribution centers and industrial zones, and it's about 1,500 feet from Highway 99. The levels at this site are similar to what we see at the Sacramento Region's near road site, Sacramento Burkett Drive, which is about a mile northwest of where we are right now in these chambers, and it is less than 70 feet from I-5. Not shown here, but we also measured PM10 as part of our Phase 2 monitoring, and for Phase 10, or Phase 10, not Phase 10, for PM10, we also found that the levels in South Sacramento, Florida were highest at that site in that northwest corner, and but the levels overall in South Sacramento, Florida were lower than what we see at the peak site in Sacramento County. Next slide. So shown here are PM 2.5 levels measured by our Phase 2 monitoring in South Sacramento, Florida. Shown here are what we measured in South Sacramento, Florida sites, as well as what was measured using a similar type of monitoring equipment at what has generally been the peak site in Sacramento County. And we did find that the levels at South Sacramento, Florida sites were higher than our peak site. Although although the monitoring equipment is similar, there was a difference, and that could be responsible for some of those differences. Next slide. So Phase 2 monitoring measured 59 different toxic air contaminants, 27 of which are cancer-causing. Today, I will just be sharing our analysis of non-cancer health impacts related to what we measured. Our analysis of those cancer-causing toxic air contaminants is still ongoing. So out of those 59, only one of them was found to be at levels in South Sacramento, Florida that were above the California Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment non-cancer health thresholds, and that compound's acrolein. So although it was above the threshold in South Sacramento, Florida, it's still below the California statewide average levels. Acrolein is a volatile organic compound and exists as a gas in the air. If it is above that non-cancer health threshold, it could cause nose and eye irritation, allergic response, and impact the respiratory system. And it comes from a variety of sources, so it can come from tobacco smoke, residential wood smoke, wildfires, stationary sources, mobile sources. cooking, as well as being produced by photochemical reactions in the air. Next slide. So next we will share more recent air monitoring results from phase 3, which is our portable air monitoring laboratory at Fern-Bacon Middle School. And we will be sharing results from April through December of last year today. Next slide. So shown here are the ground level ozone levels measured at Fern-Bacon Middle School, shown as the black line. And we found that the levels over this time interval of April to December of last year went above the 2015 ozone standard on 6 different dates. Overall, our ozone levels measured at Fern-Bacon Middle School looked most similar to our Sacramento Del Paso Manor site. This site is located in Arden Arcade, and it has had the highest ozone levels in Sacramento County last year and in the current year. Next slide. So shown here are PM 2.5 levels measured at Fern-Bacon Middle School. And I did show PM 2.5 earlier for phase 2. The difference with our portable air monitoring laboratory is we're using professional and regulatory grade equipment for most of what we're measuring. So we're using the same type of equipment as what we see at our regulatory monitoring sites. So that's equivalent. The PM 2.5 levels were above the 24-hour standard on a single day over this time interval of April to December of last year. And on that date, it's likely that wildfire smoke was influencing those levels. The average of the daily levels shown over this interval is below the annual standard. However, that standard is based on an annual average, and this isn't quite yet a full year of monitoring, and we do see the highest levels in the winter, and we haven't captured a full winter there yet. So overall, what we see at Fern-Bacon Middle School is most similar to the Sacramento region's Near Road site. A close second is also the Sacramento Del Paso Manor site. And both of those sites have generally been the highest for PM 2.5 levels in Sacramento County. Next slide. So what we're finding is that there are areas of South Sacramento, Florida, that have pollution levels similar to what we are seeing at our peak sites for certain pollutants, and that is PM 2.5, ozone, and then black carbon as a component of PM 2.5. And considering that we're seeing those levels, it is potentially the case that there is a higher cumulative exposure burden in certain areas of South Sacramento, Florida, than what we see at our other Sacramento County monitoring sites. This underscores the importance of South Sacramento, Florida transitioning to a community emissions reduction program, which will reduce exposure and emissions in the community. Next slide. So the South Sacramento Florida Community Steering Committee, as their first step to transitioning to a community emissions reduction program, looked at their community boundaries and reevaluated those. And they did decide to expand their boundaries to that red hatched line shown in the map. The original boundaries are shown as the black line. And this expanded boundary means that there are adjacent communities that are now included in South Sacramento, Florida. Some of these communities are consistently nominated to the AB 617 program, and expanding these boundaries means that they are now incorporated into the program. They will be part of the community emissions reduction program going forward, and they are potential sites for future monitoring. We do have vacancies currently on our community steering committee, and as that steering committee currently represents those original boundaries, we are looking to recruit for those vacancies in the newly expanded areas. So we have representation from there. So if that is your jurisdiction, we do appreciate if you can get the word out on that. And we do look to do some future monitoring in these newly expanded areas. Some of our partners, as well as ourselves, have done some other community air monitoring projects in these areas. So we will definitely take that into account as the district and steering committee looks at doing some monitoring in those areas so we're as efficient as possible. And next slide. So that concludes my presentation today. Thank you sincerely for your time and attention, and I can now accept any questions.
Thank you very much. Selena, I'm going to need your help with this. Is there anybody in chambers who has questions for Ms. Colon?
Director Maple has her hand raised.
Okay.
Hi, thank you, Chair. Thank you so much for the presentation and for the updates. I was really proud to be there at the CARB hearing and help advocate for the expansion of the AB 617 boundaries, many of which are actually in my district. So if there's any way that we can partner together to do outreach, events, whatever it takes to get the word out, I'm happy to do that and help support that through my office. And I also I'm really glad to see that, we're now, those new boundaries will also include right around the airport. It's a question I get a lot from my constituents who live near the airport and Mangan Park and Golf Course Terraces. How is this impacting us? I think there's a lot of general ideas. People will report things like we have higher rates of child asthma, for example. We literally have the Airport Little League, which is a little league field right next to the airport where the planes land. And I often think to myself, what can I be doing to help advocate for those kids and the community members there? And so I think having all the information and the data is the first step. So I'm really excited to start this process and have that included, and just really appreciate the update. Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you. Anybody else in chambers with questions or comments?
Not in chambers.
Okay, then it looks like Director Guerra.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate everyone here today. And fortunately, I've got to bounce early, so we'll hopefully get the quorum on time so we can vote here. I've got a CARB meeting, but I wanted to just thank everyone who participated at that CARB hearing, Director Maple, all of our staff. I know we had a number of directors who showed up to support our air district. And more than anything, I just wanted to again thank the Air District staff for the consistent work that's been done on transparency, on engagement with the community, and the fact that this has been a community-led effort that now is looking at those new zones that include the industrial area, and also working with the industrial partners to figure out how we look at innovation in that area. So all to say is I think this is exciting to see where we're at, and a lot of gratitude goes to all of our team, and big shout out to Janice also. Great presentation there at the hearing for the good work here in this effort. Well, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other requests to speak online. Any other questions or comments from anyone? Okay.
I have a curiosity. Thank you. I have a curiosity. The measurements of the gases, are those taken in parts per million or parts per billion?
Thank you for your question. So the gases can be in either of those units. You can convert between them. I don't think I showed any concentrations of gases in my presentation, but generally what we have been using is micrograms per cubic meter. And then for ozone, I'm not sure if this is related to ozone. My ozone slide, maybe it's related to that, if that's parts per million or parts per billion. I showed the air quality index, so I didn't even show the concentration there. But yeah, ozone, in terms of that health standard, that's 70 parts per billion or 0.07 parts per million, but it was just the air quality index, so it just showed 100.
Thank you. That's a finite accuracy. I just appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
All right, next item, please.
The next item, item number 7, District Headquarters Relocation Project Status Update, and I have Megan Shepard in chambers to give a presentation.
Thank you, and good morning, Chair, Keno, and directors. My name is Megan Shepard. I'm the Director of the Administrative Services Division, and I'm going to give a status update on the District Headquarters Relocation Project. Next slide, please. Some key points I'll be addressing this morning are to address some questions from the last board meeting, the downtown Sacramento commercial real estate market, relocation status, and our hybrid workplace and space considerations going forward. Next slide, please. So the current downtown Sacramento market conditions. Within a half a mile of our current headquarters, there are 23 properties for lease and 6 buildings for sale. Our current vacancy rate is 14.2%, and the leasing demand for properties of larger space is pretty low, and that's due to the work from home policies that many agencies are still using, and downsizing. Many companies are requiring less square footage. As for a sales environment, most owner-occupied buyer activity is looking for 10,000 square foot or less. There's limited financing options for office building investment buyers, and this is because banks are tending to frown on lending on vacant office buildings unless there's a real good story or minimal leverage on their side. More buyers may explore the market if the interest rate goes down, which, I mean, that makes sense. Next slide, please. Continuing to look at the market, here are some recent office building sales in the downtown area, which really kind of play to that story we're telling. The first property there, though they have a low occupancy rate, that was a distressed seller. The first 2 are investment properties, and that was a distressed seller, so they got a really good rate and a prime location for a Class A property. The second building was a high occupancy and great cash flow, so they were able to get a good rate on a building that had, prime cash flow. The third building there is just for comparison, good, high rate, but that was an owner-occupy off-market purchase. Next slide, please. And here's a look at owner-occupier sales outside of the downtown area. You'll see the occupancy rate is low, but these were owner-occupied. They're on the market much longer, and the price per square foot is much lower. That is due to it being outside the downtown area, but also we are tending to find that we have a little more niche market with our owner-occupy. You're not finding people who want to move into the building. It's more of an investment type property. So you do see them on the market a little longer than the investment properties. Next slide, please. All right, for our relocation status update, we're continuing strong. Our mission stays the same. We're going to actively market our current headquarters. We're continuing to make minor updates to make our building more attractive to potential buyers. We're going to avoid many major renovations or capital projects. And we're currently working closely with our brokers to monitor our market trends. We'll maintain a patient approach. Our building debt will be paid off in 2027. Our annual operating costs are around $500,000. So we feel comfortable maintaining status quo for 2 to 3 years. And after that, we will reassess beyond that point. We don't want to make any hasty decisions that could put us in trouble, miss out on an opportunity, or put the district at risk. Next slide, please. As for the hybrid workplace and space considerations, we have a 2-phase approach here. We have a short-term plan and a long-term plan. So within this next year, Dr. Ayala brought you this last board meeting, our plan for the next year for our hybrid work model, which is continue our minimum 1 in-office day per week, where everyone continues and maintains strong working in our current workspace assignments. And we feel that's a good model for now. Everyone's meeting their metrics. We work strong as a team. And we would commit to longer, but we don't want to tie ourselves into a commitment that could change We don't know what it holds, where we'll be in a year. We could find our perfect buyer and our forever home next month. We just don't know. Our long-term plan in the next 2 to 3 years, we'll reassess our plan annually. And after 2 to 3 years, we'll take a look, and perhaps that is seeking out new tenants and remaining in place. We may be bringing our second floor staff to the third floor and remodeling the third floor to better fit our needs. When we were looking for our forever home and putting our building on the market initially, we were figuring out what space we need. And so when we were looking at that, we were figuring that we'd have 2 in-office days per week, and determining that it would be a maximum of 66 staff in the office at one time. So when determining that square footage need, that's what we used for our model. So that was approximately 15 to 18,000 square feet. So that's how we determined what we would possibly need. So we continue with that going forward. So that's what we figure we would need in the future. If things change, we'll reassess, but that's what we'll go forward with. So should that be the plan going forward? We would have assigned staff who would be in the office. We have some staff who would enjoy being in the office and find that more productive, and they're in the office 3 or more days per week. They get their assigned workspace. But staff who would do the 2 or less days currently, they potentially in this shared workspace condition, when we would change to a smaller footprint, would share like hoteling offices or hoteling cubicle stations. Of course, managers and confidential staff would have private workspaces. However, they would be shared private workspaces, meaning when you're in the office, you would get a private place to conduct business. However, it would be not private for every day of the week. Somebody would be sharing an office with you the days that they're in the office. The message really, we want to keep our options open. We want to stay nimble. The market's changing, and we want to be flexible with it. Our staff is fantastic, and they're doing such a great job. And we want to find a great place and the right place for us so that we can continue being successful and doing the great work that we do. So, next slide. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for your time. It was lovely getting to speak with you. This was my first time getting to chat with you all today, so thank you so much. And I'm happy to address any questions that you all have.
Thank you very much for the presentation. So aside from the original offer we got on our building, has there been any interest in our building from potential buyers?
Unfortunately not. So that's been the downside. We're not seeing as many owner-occupiers looking around. And as I kind of mentioned, it's kind of more specific. We're looking for a small group of buyers that would be looking for a 40,000 square foot office building to really come in at the price point that we're looking for. So if we were really looking for an investment buyer, we would need to lower our price point considerably because we're about $50 a square foot off of what they were selling these other buildings. And we could reassess that, but we're not ready to do so. I think our building, with all the amenities and, upsides, we've got a great place, and we're not in a hurry to move. We're not desperate. We're not underwater. We're comfortable.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from anybody in the chambers?
Yes, we have Director Maple with her hand raised.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. One thing that came to mind, well, first of all, thank you, excellent presentation. Great to have you here. And I agree. I think that it's a great thing to be flexible, and I think the way that we're going to be able to continue to attract and retain quality staff is by being flexible on in office, and we're seeing that all around, and not just in government, but in other industries as well. So in order to be able to do that, and we know that every entity is struggling right now to hire and retain, including the city of Sacramento, the county, and beyond, and so we just have to, that has to be something that we do. So I agree with the strategy, short-term and long-term. I agree that reassessing as we go is a great way. And I love the fact that we're almost paid off. I mean, it's a great place to be in financially. So we're obviously not in a hurry. But one of the things that came to mind is, I don't know if you've been following, some of the other buildings in town are going through the adaptive reuse process. So some state-owned buildings, and they're actually talking with developers and doing RFPs to actually turn that into housing. As we all know, we're trying to build a lot more housing in downtown Sacramento. So just curious, is that something that we've explored in terms of marketing for that type of use?
We have not. That's not something we had explored, but with your recommendation, definitely we can look into that and see what our options are.
Yeah, it might be something worth exploring. I don't know how many, I also know that I've talked to some housing developers who say it's really challenging to turn an office building into housing, but we know that it is happening, and at least in a couple circumstances, and especially in downtown where we want to attract more people to come and live and work. And so might be something worth talking with, the firm that we're using to see if there's a way that we can specifically market it for that. Thank you.
Interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from someone in the chamber?
Nope, that was going to be it.
Doesn't look like it. Okay, I don't see any hands raised online, but does anybody online have a comment or question? Hearing and seeing none. Thank you very much for the presentation. Okay, and we haven't gotten any more people, right? We don't have a quorum.
So I just received a text message from Director Guerra, and Director Vang is about 10 minutes out from City Hall. So I will leave it up to you to decide if we want to wait about 10 more minutes so that we can vote on our consent calendar and our public hearing, item number 5.
Well, I know Director Guerra has to leave, so.
Yeah, I have to leave in 10 minutes. So, I was, but the good thing is it's I'm right next door. So,
Vice Chair Aquino, this is Berto Ayala. If I can suggest, we're okay. We can bump the items that we need action on for the next meeting.
Okay.
So you guys have that option if you don't want to wait.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like we're going to be swapping, and we still wouldn't have a quorum, right?
Well, if she got here in time, then we could both vote at the same time, and then we'd be out.
Okay.
But we don't know. I mean, she's on the road back into downtown, so that's the challenge.
Okay. Well, let me ask this: are there any board ideas, comments, or AB 1234 reports?
The good old-fashioned filibuster.
I was trying to find my email. I keep getting emails, Dr. Ayala, about something that happens in October. Is it like
Cleaner
Air
Day?
Quality Day? Or thank you. Yeah, is that something that the district typically do? We kind of promote that and try to do something with that.
Yes, we are going to be asking you. Thank you for the question, Vice Chair Aquino. We're going to be asking you to help us promote it. Cleaner Day is a statewide effort championed by the Coalition for Clean Air, an entity that has been around doing this type of work and supporting public agencies for many years. And they have a specific regional focus around the state. And in our region, over the last few years, we have partnered with them and become one of the co-sponsors. So we are planning a number of activities. Thank you for raising that. We were actually planning on giving you a rundown of the activities at the next board meeting. Cleaner Day is first week in October, so when we see you in September, we're going to give you all the information. But yeah, please help us get the word out. And we will be sending you a packet of information in addition to what we talk about next board meeting. And I think Director Guerra is gonna chime in because he has a leadership role in helping us organize Cleaner Day in the region.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ayala. Thank you, Chair. I get to be the chair of Clean Air Day for our region here, the co-chair. And some exciting things, we actually, our Clean Air region funds the 5-county region for Clean Air Day events. And the grants are anywhere from $500 to $1,000 to do Clean Air Day activities. The awardees were decided last week. And if I'm going to try to look through here. And all of the events have to happen on or near the first Wednesday of October. That's the clean air. That's California Clean Air Day. Some of the events are everywhere from Citrus Heights, Auburn, Roseville, downtown Sacramento, and some of them are working with the schools to do bike pedestrian education. There's a few tree planting events. Obviously, the Sacramento Tree Foundation is heavily involved in that. There is one quick build traffic calming event where they're going to look at a problem intersection and try to do something for the day to encourage biking and walking by doing some quick build examples of reducing speed. So it's very ingenious. It's very open-ended. There'll be some mechanic and bike shops as well throughout the area. And our transportation management agencies like the Highway 50 TMA that works with Folsom, Rancho, and Sacramento also will be doing an event. And on that day, RT also does free RT, right RT that day too. So if you want to plan your first Wednesday of October to try to learn the RT system with where you could just jump on, and then that's a good day to do it as well.
Okay, so it looks like the first Wednesday in October is October 2nd. So Folsom didn't submit a grant, but I will commit to make sure that we do something here in Folsom. So.
Yes, and a lot of the events are also happening in on actually the Saturday before to remind people, hey, this Wednesday, use that day to reduce your emissions output. Either bike, commute, telecommute that day. Even planting a tree is a good activity to help improve clean air. But yeah, there'll be a lot of activities actually that Saturday in the morning from Sacramento all the way up to Auburn.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other board comments, ideas? Okay, and Selena, I assume we do not have anybody there who wants to speak from the public on an item that's not on the agenda?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Let's see. Well, how much time did we kill? I think we did a pretty good job.
That was 6 minutes.
Do we have Director Vang's ETA?
Yeah. Not yet, but proof that you can do a lot in 2 and 3 minutes. Oh, look at this. Yes. So we're ready here. Look at here, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. Thank you.
Chair, we can call the roll and do everything we need to.
Okay. Do we need to call the roll again, Selena?
No, we don't need to call the roll. We can go ahead and move to the consent calendar, items 1 through 4.
Okay, perfect. Are there any questions from the board on an
Move
item on
consent, Director Maple.
Okay, I assume we don't have any member of the public wanting to speak, Selena?
Not at this time.
Okay, then we have a motion. I will go ahead and second the consent calendar. Could you please call the roll?
Director Aquino?
Aye.
Director Daniels? Director Desmond? Aye. Director Frost?
Aye.
Director Guerra?
Aye.
Director Hume? Director Kennedy? Director Maple?
Aye.
Director Vandenberg?
Aye.
Director Robles? Director Cerna? Director Terry? Director Thau? Director Vang?
Yes.
Great. The consent calendar passes. We can move on to the next item, which is public hearing. Item number 4, amendments to Rule 101, general provisions and definitions. And I have Diana Colazzo in chambers to give a presentation.
Okay. Is this going to be short and sweet so that we still have Director Rivera together?
I'll do my best.
Okay.
Give me 1 second.
Good morning, Vice Chair Aquino and members of the board. My name is Diana Colazzo. I'm an air quality engineer with the Monitoring, Planning, and Rules Division. And today I'll be presenting the amendments to Rule 101, the general provisions and divisions rule. Next slide. Just as the name implies, the general provisions and definitions rule provides definitions to key terms such as exempt compound and the volatile organic compound, or VOC, that are used in other rules and regulations such as the emission reduction credits rule and the federal and new source review rule, which impact how these rules are enforced. Next slide. Why are we amending Rule 101? The Sacramento region is categorized as severe non-attainment for ozone. It's a federal requirement for non-attainment areas to have a plan for non-attainment new source review and submit it to the EPA. Our plan currently has a problem with the way VOC and exempt compound are defined because our exempt compound list is different from the federal exempt compound list. The EPA was concerned that about the way emission reduction credits are granted due to this difference. In addition, we want to provide clarification for the availability of public records to account for, to accurately reflect how data is managed in today's time. Next slide. Why do we update the exempt compound list? Well, as I mentioned, we're in non-attainment for ozone, and ozone is formed when VOCs and nitrogen oxides are formed or react in the presence of sunlight. It's important to maintain and update the exempt compound list because the compounds that are added to this list contribute little to no ozone, making it a tool for ozone pollution control. It's also common practice for our sources to opt for using exempt compounds in order to comply with VOC limits, which in turn help with ozone pollution. Next slide. How exactly are we changing Rule 101? Well, first is to bifurcate the definition of VOC so that essentially we create two lists. One is the existing district-specific exempt compound list, which will be used for regulating toxicity and for public health purposes. The second, it will reference the federal exempt compound list for purposes of granting emission reduction credits. The second change is to add 11 compounds to our district-specific list. Since a rule was last amended, EPA added 11 compounds to the federal list, which we are catching up on backdated items. The third change is to add a provision to the disclosure of data so that we clarify that certain air pollution information will be made more readily available in light of the 21st century. Next slide. For the 11 compounds, we came to the agreement that there are no environmental or public health impacts. In fact, it provides our sources more flexibility. Next slide. Here is a slide of exempt compounds. On the left are two compounds that can be used as a coolant for the automotive industry or a refrigerant for commercial chillers. On the right is a compound that can be used as a heat transfer medium for the semiconductor industry or for electronic testing. Next slide. To further expand on the provision for disclosure of data, our existing provision states that the district is required to provide notice prior to sharing air pollution information. We found this provision is a bit vague and a bit outdated. With information being more accessible these days, it feels unnecessary to provide notice to our sources prior to sharing said information. It also impedes on the district being able to provide emission data that's required by the state or federal regulations. So we are proposing to remove the notice requirement for certain air pollution information that doesn't include trade secrets. Next slide. For outreach for today's hearing and for the public workshop held in July, the district notified the public through the Sacramento Bee, through our district website, and through email. As of today, we haven't received any comments from the public. Next slide. Our final recommendations are to conduct a public hearing, determine the amendments to Rule 101 are exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, approve the resolution adopting amended rule, and direct staff to forward the amended rule to CARB for submittal to the EPA. Thank you so much. I'm open to taking any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Hang tight for the questions. I'm going to open the public hearing. Selena, is there anybody there that wants to speak?
No, not at this time.
Okay, then we will close the public hearing. Do any board members have questions for Ms. Palago?
Madam Chair, Rich Desmond. Just confirm, I think from your slide, you said this really has no practical impact on the regulated sources. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, well, I move approval of staff recommendation.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second by Guerra.
Okay. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Director Aquino?
Aye.
Director Daniels? Director Desmond? Director Frost?
Aye.
Director Guerra?
Aye.
Director Hume? Director Kennedy? Director Maple?
Aye.
Director Vandenberg?
Aye.
Director Robles? Director Cerna? Director Terry? Director Thau? Director Vang?
Yes.
This item passes.
All right. Thank you all very much for your
Thank you.
cooperation. I think we made it, right? Nothing else?
We did. There's nothing else that needs quorum.
Okay.
Hey, thanks. I got 3 minutes to spare. Thank you, everybody.
Then we will go ahead and adjourn. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.